Hello, happy folks. I hope you guys are having just an absolutely amazing day today. So today on Wednesday, I do reviews of video games that I played, typically older ones and that sort of thing. I thought it would be fun for me to knock out an RPG from 1999. I've recently done reviews of things like the movies from 2005 last week. I've done older things like Heroes of Might and Magic 3 or 2, or Might and Magic 6 Wasteland. I've done Star Control 2. I've done some more recent ones, like in the last few years, like Crusader Kings 3 or Stellaris and EU4. I also sometimes will do a more recent one if I've just put a few hours into it after it was recently released, like 2 Point Museum, and that sort of thing. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get started with my review of Planescape Torment from 1999. Alright, so this was released on my birthday, which is December 10th in 1999. Great stuff. Now, I'm not born in 99, I was born in 76, but you get the idea. Alright, so it was made by Black Isle Studios, released by Interplay Entertainment. Now, it was designed by Chris Avallone. He also wrote it up too. It was programmed and coded by Dan Spitzy, and art by Tim Donnelly, and music by Mark Morgan. Music and art, great there, dude. So on Steam, the Enhanced Edition has a ranking of 94% strong stuff, level lots. On Metacritic, it's not that fewer. You can definitely still tell it's a strong thing, where it's at 91%. Pretty close. So it costs $20 for the enhanced version on GOG and Steam. I'll link you to both. But on GOG, I checked it out yesterday, and it was available for $10. It's on a 50% off sale, and it's on the enhanced edition. So this is primarily story-driven RPG with combat taking second place. So you'll follow a character called the Nameless One. You'll grab NPCs too. You'll also find out early on that your main character has died a few times, and then you'll wake up again and again when he dies, rather than just reloading from a save. So you can slowly build up information and such, and choose your backstory. You also start with amnesia too. So the rule set here is based on a conversion of the Planescape setting from the second edition of Dungeons & Dragons. Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, sorry. At the same time as Baldur's Gate and Icewind Dale on the Infinity Engine, and it was less of a commercial hit than those were. So you'll do the typical RPG open world things. You're like move around, explore, talk, fight, although lesser to a degree, use stuff, cast spells, and that sort of a thing. Also get tattoos for your main character instead of leveling it up as armor. And as you get more tattoos, more things will happen. You'll start the game as a fighter class, but then you can swap over later to thief or wizard, but not cleric though. You'll often get past stuff without combat, like stealth and that sort of thing. We're talking, which is pretty cool. You can choose how to play it around and get to the places you need to get to. So you can start at a true neutral alignment, which is neutral, but you will move as you make choices and decisions, which I like a lot. You can also join various political factions too. So this is your character, this is your story, and you choose what's going to happen and how to do everything. But there are very few NPCs that you can only choose just out of your party, which I don't like. In a party of 6, that's not that great. It's a great RPG to read into. It's a great It's a great RPG to read, if that makes sense, because of how great the script is. Chris Avallone does a great job. There's more story than here. It's a weird game, which is fine. It can feel a little iconoclastic at times. Great music, great world building, and great art too, but not enough NPCs. So it's a 10 out of 10. Love lots. So those are my quick thoughts on Planescape from 1998 by Black Isle and released by Interplay. Alrighty, and so that sort of things, I'm giving it a 10 out of 10 for you folks. My only major critique is that it just doesn't have enough NPCs for a larger party. So I don't like that. So it doesn't really replay well for those reasons, like Baldur's Gate 1 or 2. I have a ton of characters you can add to your RPG, although Baldur's Gate 2 is a very, very fewer number compared to Baldur's Gate 1. And then also, Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't have as many as Baldur's Gate 2, which doesn't have as many as Baldur's Gate 1. Right? And so it feels that. So that's my only major negative. All right, so there you are. Have you played this game? Again, no spoilers. I didn't give you spoilers. I didn't give you anything other than basic plot and that sort of thing, but no spoilers. But let me know what your thoughts are. Have you played it? What'd you think about it? Did you agree or disagree with my 10 out of 10? As I just said, I do all these reviews of older games on RPG on Wednesdays. Also, on Mondays, I do reviews of older RPGs like Dungeons & Dragons or back in the early era, or stuff like, the fun thing of Battletech 2 and the War Games. I've just reviewed on that day. I've done the last B3s, B1, B2, and B3. B3 was just on Monday. B3, The Palace of the Silver Princess from 1980, the Gene Reeb version, or 1981, the one that was added with Tom Mulvey, and I reviewed both of those versions. Palace of the Silver Princess. I also just did B2, Keep on the Borderlands by Gary Gygax, and B1, Mike Cars' In Search of the End. So if you like those older things, definitely check those out. On those things, I probably did like more than 20. I also just recently did the 7 Epic First Edition from Dungeons & Dragons by Gary Gygax. The Epic 7 against the Giants, against the Drought, and that sort of thing. Alright. And fun stuff there. So anyway, also on Fridays I do top 10s, typically of older things. I just do my top 10 comics and my top 10 miniseries. So we all do my top 10 artists, and then I also have done tons of. I also do my top 10 albums and my top 10 musical artists, and then recently I've done my lots of other top 10s too, out there too, like things out there like say mostly movies, like top 10 independent films, top 10 comedies, and that sort of thing. And then on Saturday, I dedicate to something I call the Serial Saturday, the forgotten sort of storytelling genre from movie serials. I've done the first 2 seasons of Doctor Who from TV2 in the 60s. And then also I've done tons of movies from Flash Gordon to Buck Rogers to Tarzan just recently, and that sort of thing. I just did Black Hawk last week, and this week I'll be doing this 2.5 one. 12-parter from 53 in the Cold War. It's called the Canadian Mounties versus the Atomic Invaders. So that sounds like fun. Alright, so check this out. 2 of those older things. And then my other 3 reviews a week, I do older things out there, like short stories or novels or novellas or even poems and prose poems too. Out there too in the 3 genres that we cover: science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Right. So if those 7 older things sound like you're stable and sound like things you want to check out, then definitely do all the YouTube stuff and have a seat. Welcome to the channel. Do the subscribing, sharing, liking, hitting the bell icon to be notified of them if you're feeling frisky. All that stuff. Love it lots. So check it out. Also, the name of this channel is also part of that too, which is also the passion, which is it's a quote by a French philosopher, Jacques Joubert, who said that the worst thing about the new books was that they kept us from reading the old ones, right? And there's nothing wrong with the new books; they're good, right? But in our pursuit of new stuff, right? New vacations, new music, new movies, new video games in this case, and that sort of a thing, you definitely, I think we've gotten so tied up in them that we've forgotten sort of the giants that they stand upon or that heavily influence them. So I like going back and checking this out. Also, my number 1 strength on Strength Quest is context. It's all about learning more, and I appreciate it more. For example, in this first edition of Dungeons & Dragons, Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, in the Dungeon Master's Guide, in Appendix N, Gary Gygax lists all his different things of influences. So I appreciate it more by going back and reading those things, right? Love it lots. Alright, and so there you are. Alright, and if you watched this channel all the way to the end, I just want to thank you so very, very much for just taking some time out of your day and investing it, right, and watching my videos, because we all have so many things, right, that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spend this time with me, that's incredibly humbling, and I really do appreciate it. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.